we're obviously not painting the shed right now. So instead, I'm going to install the windows and hopefully the door, at least the windows today. Then when I get them in, I can go ahead and finish all the trim, caulk all that, and then everything will be ready for it to get painted without having to then come back again. And I was thinking about it, and I thought, why was I thinking of painting this first and then putting windows in and then the trim and then painting again? I don't know, but I don't know. I think it's because of my original plan. Before I put any of the trim on, I was just going to paint all the plywood. Since it's acting as our siding, I thought I'll put a base paint all over everything and then put trim on, caulk that, and paint that. I think that's where it got in my head. So anyway, doesn't matter. I'm putting the windows in, trim it all out, caulk it. It'll be all done and ready to paint. And hopefully I'll get that door in too before we paint. So before I actually put the windows in, I am going to flash around the whole window with this Vicor Plus self-adhered window and door flashing. So that will give me an initial water barrier around the whole window. Just like any flashing, siding, roofing, anything that's going to be shedding water, you always want to start working from the bottom and work your way up, overlapping what you've done below that. So we're going to first take this piece of flashing and put it here along the bottom, and then we'll put pieces on the side that come down and overlap here on the flashing on the bottom. This stuff is very sticky. So I want this to come up a little bit on the edge, a few inches. There we go. You can see how this is coming up on the edge over here. I want to get it right down into that corner and up on the edge. So some of these flashing tapes that you see, like the zip systems, they make a flashing like this that is stretchy. And you would actually take the corners and just stretch it around and get it on here. But we can't do that. So instead, what we're going to do is cut this and then try to overlap it as it goes around the corner. So I'm going to pull this down first, like that. And then, well, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention how I was going to do that. I'm not doing it, I'm not pulling around. I'm actually going to put another piece on top of this, is what I'm going to do. So this piece, I'm going to want to come down and cover over the bottom part like this. Now when I put the side piece on, it's going to come down and overlap this piece here. So that's the nice thing about the zip system, where you can actually stretch it over here. Then there are no seams. This is going to have a seam here that can actually potentially leak here. But we're hoping that it's sealed good and won't. It's not perfect, but it's really going to help prevent water from getting in there. The next piece will come down here and cover all of this, but in that corner right there, there will always still be a potential for a leak with this method here. But it is pretty good. I mean, that stuff sticks really well, and there shouldn't be water getting in there anyway once we've got this all done. So this is just really a protection. They didn't even used to do this kind of thing days gone past. So this is really just an extra layer of protection. So that one's starting from the top, coming down, covering these down at the bottom, allowing the water to shed off that direction. We'll do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll do the top on top of those pieces on the side.
Get it together.
Brady's been playing all day.
Oh, I thought this was a time. I am so tired.
He's been working at another house, making a little money. So he abandoned me. But so if you can see this now, this is actually overlapped in the corner, and there's like at least 3 layers of this Vicor stuff in each of these corners. It's overlapped that way a little bit, and there's multiple layers inside. So it should be good and watertight. And now we can install the window. So now that we've got all the tape done on here, it's time to actually install the window. Your window opening should be larger than, larger than the window itself. So this window, the actual window insert is 35.5 inches wide. The window opening is 36. So it's a little bit more. It's a 1/2 inch wider than the window. Same thing with the height, should be a 1/2 inch larger. So we can set the window inside. Just to double check, we'll make sure that it actually fits in the window opening. Which it does beautifully. Yeehaw. It is upside down, however. I'm just looking at this. These are some weep holes. So if water does get into the window, it will drain the water out. So we'll flip that over. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put 2 shims on here so that it creates a little bit of a gap here. What I want to try to do is get it centered in the space. I'll try to get a little bit of a gap on each side, a little gap, both top and bottom. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to put shims, 1 shim on each side here on the base, so that when I put the window in, there's a little bit of a gap. I want to have a little bit of a gap all the way around. And then I'm going to take the level and make sure that it's level and that it's plumb. And then when that's all set, we got little holes in here in the window. We'll use screws to drive them in. I'm using these 3-inch screws because we have our sheathing on the outside. We also have 1 inch of insulation in between that and then the studs. So I want to make sure I'm going not only through the sheathing on the outside, but then a good distance into the studs to make sure that window's secure. So I'm using a 3-inch screw. Okay, that should give me a perfect gap there on the bottom. Okay, let's see if I can do this without knocking those shims off. So I'm a little high on the right side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set this side here, and then I can lift this side to get it level and then set this side, and we should be good. Hold that with my greasy head. I think I missed with that one. I think I'm going to have to make sure that I angle my screws over away so I make sure I hit the stud. All right, the window is in. We've secured it with screws about every other hole. You don't have to do every hole on it. If you do, that's kind of overkill, but you can if you want to. It's no big deal. One thing we did do is I used typical deck screws, which technically you shouldn't use because they don't have a flat head to press against there, and they can more easily rip out. But with the amount of screws that are in there, I think it won't be an issue. Next thing to do before I do the final step of waterproofing this window is I want to check the window, make sure everything opens properly. So let's go check that out. All right. Unlock the window. Oh, look at that. Opens, no problemo. Closes up, locks up nice. Beautiful. You still see we have the shims in there. We can pull those out. That one was loose because I had to lift on that side to actually get the window level. So I'm just going to pull this one out and we're good. And look who showed up. So I'm looking at the window, and as Brady came out, and I looked out and I don't know if you can see that.
You can see a little distortion.
See a little distortion there. My head grease smear when I'm holding the window in. So the final thing I'm going to do for a water barrier in this window is I'm going to use, again, the strips of this Vicor to put another strip on the edges first and another strip across the top. And with this one, I'm going to be covering all of the screws here and securing that down tight. Overlapping the top portion again to make sure that any water would shed off. Now I'll put another one on the other side, and I'll put one across the top, but what I'm not going to do is put one across the bottom, because we want, if some water were able to get into that portion of the window, we want somewhere for that water to escape. We've got this barrier underneath at the corner. If water gets in there, we want that water to shed off of that and run down so that the window area stays dry and doesn't rot. So we'll put them on the sides and across the top, but not at the bottom. Now, when I put my trim on, I'm also going to be caulking on the top of the trim as well to help prevent water from coming inside. Caulking all the way around that way. So hopefully that'll do a good job. I think it will. Let's do another one.